Hello. Today I just wanted to talk about how challenging it can be to sort of stay present and conscious when using social media. And even if you don't use social media, you will, unless you live an incredibly secluded life, will have regular contact with people whose lives are affected every day by social media, and even every hour. Well, some people can't go, a few minutes without checking the phone, without checking Facebook or whatever, Instagram. I don't. You'll have to forgive me, but some of them, Instagram, I'm not 100% sure what Instagram does. Or Snapchat. I think Instagram is like one where you post a picture and you have to speak about it or something. I don't quite know. However, Facebook is something I'm familiar with. But if you're listening to this, you will have encountered probably some spiritual teachings. It's affected you in your life, and from a personal point of view, I always try to find a balance of using it and not letting it affect my inner state, and it can be very difficult. The obvious solution would be not to use social media at all. However, I think it's important not to get bogged down with it. This is my take on it. I do know some people that are on all of them, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, generally younger people. Most people, and I do say most, not all, of a younger generation, younger age, teens, early 20s, whatever, they're not really at a stage in life where spiritual teachings will neither be necessary nor they would see the benefit. Usually you have to have disillusion first, quite before you, in a lot of cases, before you'll sort of embrace spirituality and teachings and things like that. But obviously people of all ages are affected by it. It's a manifestation of the human mind, social media, in that, in my view, it can be used for good purposes as it can for bad. In equal measure. Now, if you look at the world, you've got to agree that the state that the world's in at the moment, with how much sort of conflict there is and unconsciousness and greed, we're not where we need to be, are we, as a species? And social media reflects that. 95% of it is total nonsense and not worth spending any time at all. However, there is a small percentage which can be enlightening and can, if used correctly, can be good. I'm just, from a personal point of view, I'm just on Facebook. My excuse, if you want to call it that, is that there's certain people and groups of people that I stay in contact with because of that. Or I would get rid of it, probably. So, what I found is that most of it is, it really is unnecessary. Just from a personal point of view, I have unfollowed virtually. I think I had, when I started out on Facebook 10 years ago, before I'd ever read a spiritual book, it was a bit of a childish game to see how many friends I could acquire. I was like, oh, look at me, I've got 700 friends. I mean, to actually think that, we all look back at things that we did and, you're like, well, you cringe, don't you? I know I do. But I started realising not to judge the people that were on my friends list, but I'm like, I don't know you in personal life, in my life, so why do I need to know what you're having for your tea and things like that? Not to sort of like I said, judge or have a go at those people, but really what do I need to see that information for? So I unfriended a lot of people at the risk of and this is the thing you have to be careful of as well, at the risk of upsetting people as well. There was one friend I used to go out with quite a lot, and he started putting, I probably overreacted a little bit actually, but he started tagging me into a load of silly photographs. And it was like a constant daily thing. And I just ended up unfriending him, and he's not spoke to me since. And that's the effect that it has on people. People take it very personally. So you have to be quite careful in how you navigate it. I know there's some people I went to friends with that I unfriended that might be a coincidence, but I've encountered them in the street, and they won't even look at me. So it's like they're personally offended. But really, that is in effect their problem. But you also have to be considerate. I've found there are certain people that on my Facebook list now that I that I know from work that have sent me a request, and I've simply accepted it because I don't want to offend them, even though it shouldn't be the case. That it would be the case. I know a lot of people will, oh, you didn't accept my friend request, what's all that about? And then you'd have a situation where you'd have to be wary of that when you encountered them people. So it's easier to just accept it. And then what I've done with virtually all of my friends on Facebook is I've unfollowed them so that I cannot see what they do. So you'd think, well, what's the point of having them there? And there isn't any. There's only a small amount of people that I keep in contact with. And what I do on Facebook, because there's only probably 10 friends of mine who I haven't unfollowed, and I think I'd like 300 friends. 10 of them, I think I can still see what they're doing, and that's because they're people that don't make unnecessary posts, and that's something that I'm going to talk about. So it's basically people who'll won't post very often, and they'll put interesting things on, things that I'm interested in, and don't write a lot of drama in there. You see very unconscious things on Facebook. It's just like I said, it's a manifestation of certain groups of people. You will see some people who get involved in massive amounts of drama, and some that don't. It's just social media is a reflection on society, and certain groups of people are unconscious and certain ones are not. I've been friends with some people on Facebook and seen people airing the dirty linen in public, if you will. In other words, they'll have a fallout with someone and post it all over Facebook like it's public knowledge, which is that is creating drama, which is totally unnecessary. And obviously, suffice to say, I don't follow those people. So yeah, there's very few people that I follow, and some of them. The reason that I've unfollowed a lot of people, in my view, is because I don't need to see what other people are doing in their lives. I don't need to know where people are going for their tea, where they're tagging in, what they're doing. That's not to be rude. If I need to know that information, I'll know about it. I don't think social media should be invading people's lives, and that's in effect what it does. It can also have a negative effect on your own inner state as well. If you're sort of being taken over by Pain Body episode, let's say, and you're on Facebook and you see people having a great time and portraying this image that, we're having tea with such a body and all this kind of thing, it can get you down. It can actually, Facebook is linked to quite high causes of depression, and of course that's understandable. If like I said, if you're going through a bad time, you're having a few days where you're really feeling down about yourself and you're struggling to cope with that Pain Body episode, and you see pictures of people that may be friends of yours, and then you start thinking, well, why am I not getting invited to this? It opens up an entire can of worms. So it's best to avoid things like that. And also, you have a tendency, and I've noticed it myself, when people post and write what I would believe to be silly things, like they'll make a comment about a TV show, and then I'll start to judge that person, and then I'll start to say, oh, he's unconscious, and oh, what a load of rubbish. And really, I shouldn't do that. That's where they're at in their life. It's not my right to judge anybody else. You should never judge anybody for anything. That's one of the true essence of spiritual teaching. So, but you find yourself doing that, and now I do, and it's not healthy. So the less I see of other people's lives, the less I'm likely to get caught up in a situation where I'm going to judge them. Of course, if you was an enlightened master, you would be able to look at those and not judge people, but I'm not quite there yet. Although from another perspective I am. It depends. Words are inaccurate, aren't they? But so, and the thing is, I occasionally look back to how I used to post on Facebook, and I think back to the tat I used to write on there, and it makes me cringe. It really does. So it's another aspect of not judging people. I would demean in my mind someone who writes silly things, and I probably wrote sillier things when I was younger. So it's very true when you say you're judging another person, you're really judging yourself. It really is true, and that's a perfect example. We all mature, we're all at different stages, and there really is. It's very easy to get caught up in, especially when someone airing like controversial views about politics, even sports teams. Someone will say something that you believe is totally false, or is false. Somebody might say something about some politician, and that fact to be inaccurate, and then you will feel obliged to respond to that person. And that can get into like a really heated online debate. I've seen it so many times, I'm sure you have as well. And when you get down to it, you're like, well, what is the point, right? Let's just say that you do know something that somebody else has got wrong. 9 times out of 10, even if they know they are wrong, they're not going to admit it. And even if they do, you're probably going to get grief for it. So you're just going to get sucked into unconsciousness. The problem with online disagreements as well is you're missing out the most important factor, which is human to human contact. That's the only really true meeting that you have with other people, and if that is missing, it's just so counterproductive to get involved in that kind of situation. I got involved in, just a quick example of me getting sort of sucked into unconsciousness, shall we say, in an online forum. I was part of a Facebook group of a Star Wars YouTube show, because I'm a big Star Wars fan. And there's thousands of people in this group, and I'm not a part of it anymore because I made me realise I love Star Wars, but I don't need to see it pop up on my Facebook feed. I watch the movies and talk about it with my friends. I don't need to see what thousands of people are writing about it. There's nothing wrong with it, but that's not for me. Anyway, someone made a post and said something about the latest film that's come out that I'm not a particular fan of, and I unwittingly wrote a response. I can't remember what I did, but I basically said that the movie isn't very good, in my opinion, because of the female character of Rey isn't. I'm not a fan of the character anymore. I used to be, but I believe that it's poorly written because I don't need to go on about it. You might not know, but basically, I believe that the character of Rey isn't legitimate because she's never received any training at all, and it goes against the ethos of the original films. And she's like never gone through any training, but she's like unbelievably powerful, more than we've ever seen. And I made that comment, and then someone said, isn't it very suspicious that you're only having a go at this character who's female, and you haven't got a problem with the male character Kylo Ren? And Kylo Ren has gone through years and years of training within the story. And I made that point. I said, well, that's nothing to do with gender, and I didn't even think about it. And this person wouldn't have it. They were calling me sexist. So it got to the point where really I should have just left it at that point and said, right, okay, I mean, really, what difference does it make to my life if a complete stranger believes I'm sexist? Someone that someone that I will never meet, doesn't have any effect on me whatsoever. Even if someone was stood right in front of me calling me that, it shouldn't affect my inner state at all. The fact that I got sucked into this argument made me realise I've got quite a bit to go. And it got to the point where, I was a bit like I said, I was a bit offended when I shouldn't have been, because, like, really, what difference does it make? And then I said to this person, I posted a picture. I've got a tattoo that I had done a year or so ago that's got a picture of this female character, Rey, on it, a small picture. And I said, I posted a picture, and I said, right, if I'm a sexist, why have I got this person as a tattoo on my arm? I said, so here is your sexist. Thinking that that's downright won the argument. How could anybody say that I was a sexist and that I've only got a problem with this character because she's female, because I liked her before this new film came out. And this person responded by saying, the only reason you've got her as a tattoo is because you thought she was going to be trained by a man. And at that point I gave up. I said, right, believe what you want and then stop making comments. And that made me realise that even if, in a lot of cases, not all, some people will admit when they're wrong, but in a lot of cases, in online arguments especially, people will not admit when they're wrong. So what is the point, even when you've got evidence in front? So what is the point in ever engaging people in any kind of discussion? You see it time and time again when you go on to newspaper, when newspaper stories pop up on your Facebook feed. And people will get involved in political discussions, and I look at it and I'm just thinking, what I don't understand. People get involved and they're trying to put their point across, and then somebody else will come in and disagree with them, and then they'll start and it goes on, and it sometimes results in people threatening people. Literally, there's threats. Death threats on Twitter and Facebook. It does happen a lot. And if you think about it, if you actually get down to the actual fundamental issue and the basics of it, it's total insanity. We have presidents arguing on Twitter, threatening to nuke people on Twitter. Where does that say that we are at as a species on a sort of consciousness level? It's scary. It really is scary. So really, there's absolutely no point whatsoever. Even if somebody says something that is the most offensive thing that you could ever imagine, like, I enjoy murdering children, why would you even bother? I mean, I've said that because it's an extreme example and it's meant to be, but why would you even respond to that and said, you're evil, you? What good is that going to do? Is that person going to go, oh shit, I'm evil? And then what you'll find, in my experience, in 99.9% of cases in these type of discussions online, people do it for attention, nothing more. And that's something that you've got to be. Even I found myself sometimes wondering, why am I doing a certain thing? If you are on Facebook and you're posting pictures, and status updates are a cracker. Status updates on Facebook have given everybody an opportunity to gain attention for varying degrees. whenever you want to make a statement on Facebook, you've got to really ask yourself, you've got to go deep within and ask yourself, what am I doing it for? Is it really for attention? And you'll find yourself justifying it and say, no, I really need to say this because I believe it. Or I'm trying to think. Well, I would just go onto my Facebook feed now. It's going to be difficult, this, because I'm not really friends with... Well, I am friends with many people. Right. I've just logged into Facebook now. And someone has put... Some friend of mine who comes around playing poker, who I believe probably won't come anymore in light of this, is now in a relationship with someone. That was the main post there. Now, he's announced on Facebook that he's in a relationship with someone. Now, why generally would people... It's not, let's get this straight, right? It's not the biggest sin in the world, is it? But every unconscious action, every unconscious thing that you do has got to be investigated. If you want to live a truthful, honest life free of drama, you've got to investigate the motivation behind everything that you do. Everything. It's like Eckhart says in one of his books, every unconscious reaction is significant, has to be investigated. And it's the same with this. So my friend happened to know that he's been single for a very long time, and in fact, this is a great example, this. He'd been getting depressed about it, and he wrote a status update a number of weeks ago. And in that status update, he said, I'm looking to make some changes in my life. I'm a bit down. What do we need to do? This isn't me being judging or being horrible, but this is the truth. This particular person doesn't look after himself very well. His personal hygiene is very poor. He doesn't cook. He eats fast food. Doesn't exercise. His house isn't very tidy. He just doesn't look after himself very well. Is the nicest way of putting it. Someone commented on that and put it very, very fairly, and wrote that in the reply. And then also, I thought I would see if I could help him with something that helped me when I was feeling down. So I sent him a link to The Power of Now via Amazon in a private message on Facebook and said, hi, such a body, I've seen your post. Such and such a body is right. You do need to make them changes. However, this really helped me when I was down, and I said I will even lend you a copy if you want. He replied, I think a day later, and his reply was, what the hell do I want this for? At that point, I didn't try and argue with him. I thought, what is the point? He clearly hasn't read it properly. It's more likely that's an indication to me that he's just not at that stage at the minute. So I said, I'm sorry, that link was a mistake. It was meant for someone else. And he said, oh, okay, and laughed. And I left it at that. I thought, right, I tried, it didn't work. And this, and now he's, now he's found someone. And he's advertising it on Facebook. So, why does someone need to do that? Clearly for attention. It's a happy time in their life, and maybe he wants to be congratulated by friends. It's hardly the most, like I said, it's not the worst thing you ever do. But if you was in that position, if you was in that position and you wanted to do that, you've got to, really, it's just for attention. You want people, it gives you a boost to know that people are talking about you. You want to feel good or look good in the eyes of the world. Look at me, I'm in a relationship now. Please lavish attention and good feelings on me. If you got with... It is basically the same as if you'd have started a relationship 20 years ago. Would you have run round the street with a sign... running around the street with a sign saying, I'm in a relationship with such a body? You wouldn't, would you? It's the same as that. You tell your close friends and your family, and really, you shouldn't need the likes and strangers and things like that. That's one perspective of looking at it. So I'm looking at other posts here, and someone who I know is posting 5, 6, 7 pictures of their little baby that was born a few months ago. You know, parents are very proud, aren't they? And they feel it that's a big thing that happens these days, isn't it? People generally use social media to put pictures of their children on there. I don't quite understand it. Like I've said, there's worse things to do, but if you were doing that and you look deep, it's the same as people. You know, we've all been in that situation where you're talking to a complete stranger, and the complete stranger will, you in a pub or whatever, will start showing you pictures of their child. And I guarantee anybody listening to this, 99 times out of 100, when someone has done that, you're not interested. You don't care. Because unless they're a very close friend or a family member, you're not interested. And why would you be? And it's not being cruel. It's basically, millions of babies are born every year. Are you going to go around and look at all of them? No, because that's not, you've got your own state of consciousness to deal with. So, my Facebook page generally is full of quotes of consciousness and things like that. I have a few comedy things on there to try and not get too, when I log in, when I look at it, there's a few things that make me laugh. Things that are not too serious. And then quotes. I've got like Eckhart Tolle, Joe Goldsmith, Neil Donald Walsh. So it's always quotes that I'm happy with, that cheer me up and things like that, and amusing things and things that my own personal likes. So it's tailored specifically. I've got rid of all advertisements, and that's something else. I mean, if you're on there, it's specifically designed to to get you to buy things, isn't it? We all know all the things that's happened with Facebook nicking your data, and it's very, very dodgy. There's no doubt that there's more to it than what we believe. It's on Grand Theft Auto, the game, they call it Life Invader, and it generally is. So I would say always investigate why you want to do a certain thing on Facebook. Why do you want to tell somebody something? What is the reason behind it? And I guarantee 99 times out of 100 it'll just be for attention that isn't required. Sometimes you might want to say a message that's quite profound. If it comes from a deep place, and you'll know it comes from a deep place because you won't need to question it. Like, some people have put things on. My child went into the doctors the other day and the staff were brilliant. I want to thank them. Please don't forget how brilliant the medical staff are in this country. Things like that. And then it gets shared, but also you see the other side of it when someone like says something along the lines of, such and such a body. I've took a photo of this man. He was seen walking around Everton looking into cars, things like that, and it might be the wrong person. You don't know. He might have mental health issues, and it incites some terrible things sometimes. And so you've got to be so careful. And this is just Facebook we're talking about, isn't it? Even when I went to Thailand a few months ago, and I didn't post any pictures of me on holiday, but I did post some nice scenery pictures. But even when I did that, I was like, why am I doing that? Do I need people to go, oh, isn't that great? You must be having an amazing time. And I really investigated it, and I thought, you know what? That is the reason I'm doing it. There are much better pictures out online of scenery that people can see. However, from another aspect, there are other people that are friends with me that want to see photos of where I am and things like that. So if you're doing it for that reason, it's fine. I have got a friend who went to New York I think it was about this time last year, and literally every day that person posted in excess, and this isn't an exaggeration, 60 photographs of themselves everywhere. Now that is ridiculous. That is an attention thing. You know, I posted 2 photographs when I went to Thailand, and I felt guilty about that. We all know it, don't we? We all know someone like that. And then there's the really, there's the really unconscious ones as well that basically get involved in, purely self-seeking, feeling sorry for themselves, isn't life crap and stuff like that. And then they'll get people, oh, don't say that, sweetheart. Oh, it really isn't. We love you. #hugs. Purely, that you're not helping somebody by buying into that. If somebody says something like that, even though that they might feel in a desperate situation, 99 times out of 100, that person, you're not helping them. You're buying into their drama by responding and saying, "Oh, don't fret. Good, you're a fantastic, beautiful person," and all that. So, I think you've really got to be careful. You got to be careful not to get into a situation where you're judging people. You've got to get into a situation where you are using it for the right way. It's not creating any drama for you. It's not exposing you to things that you don't need to see. You don't need to know everything that's going on in people's lives. I don't drink a lot, really. 2, 3, 4 years ago, I was drinking every other night virtually in the local pub. I think I've been in once in the last fortnight. The last time I went in there was 3 people stood at the bar, and each one of them was on the phone, scanning Facebook and drinking. And I was just thinking, is there more? And this isn't judging that person. This is the situation. Is there a fundamental more waste of time than drinking alcohol, becoming unconscious, because that's what it does to you, whilst looking at Facebook? I don't think there is. There's it's pretty up there with probably the biggest way. It's on par with sitting in front of the TV and drinking beer. So that's what the world's coming to. It's for anybody that hasn't seen it, watch a Black Mirror episode called Nosedive. It's Nosedive. Everybody should watch all Black Mirror. But the first episode of the 3rd season, Nosedive, it's called. It's brilliant. It's on Netflix. It's about this woman who... It's about the world in 10 years if Facebook carries on being the way it is. I can't recommend it enough. It gives you a good insight into and the way, unfortunately, it may go. But I could talk about this for ages, but I do think it's important because social media is such a big aspect of people's lives these days. I think it's important that we understand the pitfalls, and I've got one of my best friends at work. She's not even on it at all, and I don't think it's a coincidence that I find her one of the nicest people I've ever met because her mind isn't involved with all this drama. You can't help but judge people. The human ego. That's what the human ego does. It judges. It discriminates. Even Mark Zuckerberg has said himself that Facebook taps into a psychological weakness, and it does. It's the perfect platform for people that have got inadequacies because they can fulfill them inadequacies through Facebook. And if you're not aware of it, it can be an incredibly dangerous thing. There are people at my place of work, and also some of my friends' children, who are from the social media generation. So basically, they've been brought up on Facebook, and it's an incredibly scary thing And those people, there is a girl at work who's a whiz on a computer, and she hasn't got any ability to communicate face to face. Her communication skills are appalling. She can't look you in the eye. She can't speak properly. She's got no... It's like she's been sat in a bedroom all her life. And I think a lot of people are growing up. They communicate through social media. Unless they've got very conscious parents, and not necessarily very conscious, but parents with quite a bit of wisdom who can see what's going on, they're going to grow up to be totally dysfunctional. A friend of mine at work, he's a great guy. I've no doubt that he's a good parent. And he said his son, he can barely hold a conversation. Anyway, I'm going to have to leave it there because I only like generally some of these videos to go on for around about the 30-minute mark. So I might do another part about this and sort of talk about some more personal experiences and maybe other aspects of social media as well, because I was thinking of writing a book on the subject, to be honest, how it affects, the consciousness levels on the planet, how it affects individuals, how it affects groups. It's a fascinating topic. What I want you to do, guys, is please leave any comments and let me know if you've enjoyed it. Any stories that you've got, I'd really appreciate it, and I will speak to you soon.